All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It is Friday. I got my regular guest, Emily Lopez, and I got two new people on today. I got Jeff from York, Pennsylvania, and Hold It with PM Jen. So, morning, everyone.
Good morning. Well, good morning from the East Coast.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're all in the morning right now. Currently, it's 5:45 a.m. for me, but that works. But so, Jen, Jeff wanted us to connect. I've been following you on YouTube, your channel, and everything. But maybe quickly introduce yourself to my audience and where you're at and what do you do.
Well, thanks so much. I am Hold It with PM Jen. PM stands for property manager. So I've been managing properties for other people for over 22 years. Currently, I've got a 13-year business, actually one focus property management here in Williamsport. We're managing Williamsport, PA, the home of the Little League World Series. So if you watch that on ESPN, that's what you know us for. A 600 door portfolio of single family and small multifamily, which is what my tertiary market has to offer. About the biggest we have here is like 25 doors and on one property. And we're working for small, everyday property investors. And I have this educational platform because there are two things that our industry is really not delivering to investors. And that is advice and advocacy about the hold part of buy and hold, because the number one way to build generational wealth in America is through buy and hold real estate. And the richest people know that, but it requires you to be an operator. And that is difficult and unsavory and not rich and sexy. That is hard work. It's problem solving, but it is so doable and accomplishable. The second thing the real estate industry isn't dealing up is ladies talking to the industry or ladies talking in lady language with their lady faces. And I don't mean to say that the advice that I'm giving is any different, but I have my face, my voice, and the values I hold dear come through in the way I talk. And I often find women find us unrepresented in the way we approach our investments. Nothing wrong with how either gender's doing it, but they don't have the same. I always say, if I'm a one-legged sailor from Wyoming who wants to invest in real estate and I'm a man named John, there's somebody who looks a lot like me out there who's written the book, like The Way to Get Rich with Real Estate. There's just a lot of examples that they can look to and feel that they relate to, where for women, there's less. And so I find it's very compelling to bring this to them.
Sorry, I was just sharing your channel. So if
Oh,
you folks want to connect with Jen, also there is her YouTube channel in the chat, also Emily's and then Jeff's YouTube channel. But Jeff, like I said, you are also a new guest on here. Maybe quickly introduce yourself and how do you and Jen know each other also?
So my wife and I have been investing in real estate in Lancaster and York counties for about, I don't even remember how many years it is. 1984 is when we purchased our first duplex and moved into one of them. And then we have gone down the roads of life for a little while. I started my own business for a while and had it, and then went through a bunch of struggles with it. And we kind of got out of the real estate path for a while. And then in 2008, real estate's kind of the family business. I remember when I was a toddler going with my dad to the first apartment building that he purchased. And we were working in the basement. We were converting, I think it was a 4-unit apartment building. And we were converting the basement to 2 more units. So he was value adding his first rental property. And I hanging out in the basement, nailing doors down to the floor and spilling cans of paint all over the floor. But I was helping out with his real estate. So it's been a part of my life, all my life, essentially. And then in 2008, he started getting out of the business because he was looking to retire and was selling off his properties. And he sold off all of his properties except his favorite choice property, which was a property that he had built. Basically it was 2 lots in Lancaster, and he built a 4-unit townhouses on each of the lots. So it's 8 townhouses all together essentially. And he really sweet deal that my brother and I got refused essentially. We had already really been taking care of property a lot because he was spending so much time. And so, 2008 wasn't the greatest time in the world to be selling properties, but he deal for us, basically no cash out of pocket. Just make sure you pay me, $3,500 every month for me to live on. So property since 2008, and it's the snowball has definitely taken effect there. Since then, my wife and I have purchased a quadplex. Started with a quadplex in 2017. And then in 2018, I had a coworker that was doing real estate investment, and he was selling off properties. He was trying to sell his property and buy more beach-oriented properties that were like Airbnb type properties because he liked that market better. And so he said, "You want to buy some properties?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. What multifamily properties do you have?" So he showed us 5 properties one Sunday afternoon, and he looked at me and said, "Which one do you want?" And I said, "I'll take them all." So I ended up trying to figure out how to buy this portfolio from him. Went through bank financing, and of course, I already had a limited liability company that we were buying it under, and it turned out I increased our portfolio from the 8 with my brother, duplex my wife and I had, and then we stepped up to 24 unit total with this off-market acquisition from him. And so we kind of been hovering around, kind of maintaining those, stabilizing them, trying to improve them and get the rents up. And then 2 years ago, we decided we wanted to try and find another multifamily property, and we were looking for something with 5 or more units. And we spent a lot of time, made a lot of offers to a lot of different people. I think we put in about 12 or 14 offers, 2 of which we had selected or were accepted, I guess I should say. And then they both fell apart in due diligence. And then finally, in May of this year, we put in an offer on a 10-unit property.
Oh, it looks like he's frozen. Well, hopefully he connects back. But Emily, do you have any
Was
questions?
shot. Since I discovered that the roof was shot, and there was mold in the attic, so we started negotiating with them over that, and eventually they got pissed off and said, "Just cancel the deal." So that one fell apart in due diligence. But then eventually they came back and said, "Okay, we've gotten this stuff fixed." And we said, "If you got it fixed, we're still interested." Of course, fixed is a relative term because we got to the settlement table and the work still wasn't done. So we ended up fighting with their service company and them over getting the rest of the work done. And I'm still not satisfied with the service company, but it got to the point I just had to evict the previous owner and the service company out of my mind and move on, taking care of it the way I want to do it and the way I want things to be done. And so that's kind of where we're at.
Emily, do you have any questions for Jen? Before I gotta, yeah.
Man, so I feel like I could just go down a rabbit hole with property management stuff. So what made you get into property management? Did you have your own properties first? Were you a sales agent and you saw a void to fill? I mean, what was that journey into property management like for you?
That sounds so intentional, Emily. Absolutely not. I was a very bright marketing student in undergraduate, and I got recruited to start a marketing company right out of undergrad. And I did that, and it failed like 9 months after we started it. And so I was living in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania to do that. And I needed a job, just like classic, kind of like graduate, had a $645 rent apartment and needed to work. And so I got in the want ads and I could always, this was 2004, so late 2003, early 2004. And I could always sell things. And I got a job leasing apartments at a 300 unit apartment community. It was like 4 years old. And it was only 88% occupied, which for a new construction property in a state capital like that, it was absolutely distressed. It was what you call distress. And it was just being mismanaged. So the staff there was one property manager, one leasing agent, newly me, and one maintenance tech. So I got hired. A month later, they fired the property manager. I was left alone on that property for 2 months before I got a new manager. And in that first 10 months assignment, I got them to 100% occupied. So I did 150 leases. Like, I am a very energetic person. You ever seen like a baby Labrador retriever? That was me. I just threw energy at it. And the company said, "Hey, you're like 6 foot tall, 23 years old, and like, like seemingly have endless energy for this. You're now the manager of the property." And I did various multifamily assignments in Harrisburg. And what it was attracted to me, why I stayed, it was very, very entrepreneurial. And I love that. Like, I come from entrepreneurs. I am not ever, I once in graduate school I had a goal in my internship to work for an enormous company. Because although I had tons of responsibility in the companies I had worked for, I didn't have any name you would know on my resume. And so I got a job at AmerisourceBergen. Oh, I shouldn't say the name, but a Fortune 24 company, pharmaceutical, whatever. And yet all the trappings of a Fortune 24 company, like rigmarole and forms and hierarchy. And I don't like that. I always say, I like to work where, like, if we're out of toilet paper in the bathroom, that's my problem. If the property's being foreclosed on, that's also my problem. Like, I like that. And I love the grittiness, Emily. I love knocking on a door and telling somebody that something's got to change. Like, baby Jesus made me a bitch and I sell it for 11%. And that sounds like I roll around being a nasty, awful person. But truthfully, I'm advocating and holding boundaries for people. Somebody has to say no to the rental applications that don't meet our creditworthiness standards. Somebody needs to pursue late rent and noncompliance to gain compliance or the property. Somebody needs to say no to the parolee brother who wants to move in or the 15 Rottweilers. I mean, you get my point. And that is why people struggle in the hold part, because they are not equipped emotionally for the conflict that comes up. And when they are, they often mishandle it. And that's when we see the chest beating and I just tell them and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I talk like that here on these things and I talk powerfully. Know that me and my company, we're big, we're bad, but we are empathetic and we are reasonable and we are legal, but we don't stop. So that is what attracted me to it. And I'm probably still in it because I moved away from multifamily and I moved to this community where I started this business. And I work for people just like Jeff and his wife. Like, they would represent one of our larger clients at 25 doors. And so I love serving real people. I say, I don't get out of bed to make rich men richer. I just don't. Like, and believe me, when you can make money with real estate, the offers come in. I've had to say no to rich men, but I don't have big needs. I live in a modest house. I have my investments. I live a great life. I don't want for anything. And I don't idealize rich people. I idealize financially free people who are building protection for them and theirs with their wealth. So I'm obsessed with generational wealth so that my children, my grandchildren, Jeff's children and family, they're never going to be subject to an abusive boss or an abusive spouse because there is financial security within their family to provide for them. And when I talk about generational wealth, I talk about the ability to provide for that. Now, you know, my family's a great example. That first assignment I had, that 300 doors, the guy who owned it was crazy. He was crazy. And to run 300 doors with 3 people is crazy. And then they built 80 more. There was no new staff. I had to like cry to the president of my company to get a golf cart, that kind of stuff. And I was, you know, my young 20s. And I remember I sat down and I told my boss, I don't know where I got off, but I said, well, I won't use the real word. I said, I don't have FU money. I don't have a big bank account with like a big, huge balance. I'm exactly what you know me to be, a young woman here starting her career. But at the time, I lived in a house that my parents owned and I paid them rent. I said, my parents are my landlords. I'm smart. I can feed myself. Like, I do not need to take this. And I got switched to another property away from that owner. They didn't fire me. And I acted like that. Same thing when it was time. I had a business partner early on in this business. And when it came time for me to buy them out, I had to go to the bank and I didn't have enough money. So I had to go to the bank and property management companies are not drowning in collateral. We are just a couple of desks and computers and key boxes. And so I needed collateral. My parents' real estate portfolio served as as some of the collateral for that buyout. Now, listen, there's nothing abusive about this situation, but it could have been. And that generational wealth created through real estate in my family created that opportunity for me. So I really like to talk this like real life generational wealth thing that the Dumbachs have found, the Rulins family has found, and I hope for you and yours that you found through real estate.
Well, we got a lot of people tuning in right now in the chat. So there
Oh.
is Emily's YouTube channel, Jen's and Jeff's. So go jump over there. Please subscribe. But you have Joe V, who is in Wisconsin. But he says, "Can I work with Jen instead of the PM company I work for?" So if
Wow. Is there a problem maybe with his PM company he's working for? This is a big burnout industry. You have to treat your team. Listen, it's systems, it's processes, it's resources. We do a lot of things here to make it palatable. Half day Fridays, free drinks and snacks, but that's because this job sucks. Like sometimes there's a dead dog in the basement. Sometimes there's like, well, a dead person in an apartment. It's gritty. It's gritty. And there are people who love that, but even when you love it, it can be too much. And so, yeah, we do a lot of things. Today's going to be half day Friday, man. Noon o'clock, long
noon,
weekend for
I
every
like it.
noon. We're done. Yeah, we do 4.5 days essentially work, and that is awesome.
So Cody Evers, who's also in Wisconsin, said, "Come over to Wisconsin, open up a business." I think he's saying property management company. But so Emily's in Wyoming and she's killing it there, but she's also looking to possibly invest out of state in another market. Like, how would you help someone looking to invest out of state if they approached you and needed you as a
Yeah.
property management company?
Yeah, and we get that, right? Because I make a lot of video content and I'm out there and I'm sassy and people get attracted to that. So I wrote a playbook for my market. So if you go to holditwithpmgen.com, click on playbook. It's free. You just have to give me your email. You can unsubscribe. I'm really not bad. I write humorous stuff. Good picks. Anyway, it's the 2025 No Bull S playbook because I cuss all the time. No BS playbook for buy and hold in North Central PA. And I talk a lot about the opportunity here, the economic drivers, and about some of the average market facts. So just quick about North Central PA. Average multifamily property per unit price, $65,000. Average cap rate, 11%. Average days on market in 24. This is 24 figures, 11 days. But the median, 54. Why? Well, you got zombies on there. You still have realtors doing a lot of those. This sold in 5 hours. F you, it didn't sell in 5 hours. You had it sold. Dual agency before you were required to put it on. You want the points. Come on. That's one thing to know about me. I'm really down on NAR. I hope that's okay. It has to be because I hate them. I hate co-broke, the fact that they're flaunting the antitrust. Anywho, so my playbook, go to holditwithpmgen.com, get my playbook because I get people coming to me because I make this content. And then I tell you, unfortunately, I don't help you buy. So you've got to find someone to help you buy or buy off market. But if you found something in my market, you'd call me up. We'd go do a stabilization plan. You'd have a lot of confidence going into that, particularly as an out-of-town investor. You'd have a really detailed plan that said exactly what we were going to do, unit by unit, property, what you would yield. And that's how I hold my team accountable to succeeding for you. Uh-oh, Jeff's got one. He got one of my stabilization plans because I teach on this. So he has one from one of my classes. Yeah. And that's what I do for people, but that's no other property managers are doing that. People don't act like that's what you're going to get with every property management company. I'm a special little unicorn.
So if somebody wants to buy in an area that you work as a property manager, they're going to need to find another realtor because you're exclusively in your niche of management. But they say, okay, because my concern buying, because I know my market, but when I start looking at other markets, my concern is the listing agent or even the buying agent who wants a deal. Unless you find someone scrupulous, which is 5 to 2% of the agents and the rest are junk, they're not going to be honest with you about the market because they just want the sale and they don't care if you come back to them. So somebody who is putting an offer on a property, whether you have a fee or not, like I'm happy to pay, you're willing to go in and give them honest feedback and have an honest conversation about that property in your market, and because they maybe don't trust their agent all the way yet.
Yeah, and because I'm signing, so just one thing about my contracts, even though I work long term with clients, they're month to month. So you can fire me anytime, and
And
I
you
can
can
fire
fire
you
them.
anytime.
Yes.
Well, and that's honestly why it exists, Emily. You're
Yep.
very bright. If I've made the wrong decision and brought the wrong client into the machine, so yes, I do that stabilization plan, and that is free. That is part of my service, and listen, the goal here is to be really realistic, to say, no, you're going to have to take that porch off and rebuild it. I don't
Yep.
care what your realtor said to you, because you are so right, Emily. The entire real estate professional industry only gets paid when you transact property. So they're like a hammer who sees every problem like a nail. Can't collect rent. Don't know what to do about the maintenance. Can't figure out the neighbor situation. Sell it, sell it, sell it, get something else. Because at the closing table, every single person at that table, the lender, the realtors, the appraiser, the inspector, the title company, and the seller all get a big fat check. You, the buyer, get nothing. You get the property and the risk. The property manager gets all the mislabeled keys and half the leases and expectation and the promise of 11% over time, right? I make bitty baby checks for performance. And that's why when I explain, like, the problem is, if you're into investment, who do you go to for advice? Realtors have purported themselves to be the advice givers. And I'm telling investors, talk to a property manager who feeds their family on the rent, who, in order to remain productive, like if I was managing your pizza shop, if you love pizza shops, right? And you invested in pizza shops and you bought a pizza shop and you're like, oh gosh, I got to go to my business. I wish Jen had a bit more attitude. Josh, you are a sassy monkey. And I do too, frankly. So if you love pizza shops and you bought a pizza shops, she should have been a cop. See, I can't look at this. It's so distracting. And you bought a pizza shop and you're like, great, closed on my pizza shop. Are you going to hire the guy who buys and sells pizza shops all day and makes $40,000 every time he transacts one for you? Are you going to hire the guy who has the Sandy Safe certificate, who shows up at 4 a.m. and accepts the cheese delivery and knows how to put the pepperoni on and hire the people and close them up and clean the toilets? Sorry, I'm the toilet cleaner. I am the trash man of real estate. But this is where the money is made. The hold part. You can buy it for almost anything, and if you hold it for long enough, it will still outperform most major asset classes. You have to hold it a long time and you have to manage it well. You know, there's a really great example of this. If you were good in real estate, like Jeff might even have a story like this. So he had a decent portfolio. And then in the early 2000s, somebody came to him with a beach property or a lake property, a vacation property. And he didn't even have to have his credit checked. He got a $500,000 loan, one of those no doc loans. And it was real easy. And he bought it, right? And then the crash happened. And all of a sudden he was underwater on that condo property, which has never happened to him in his career. He has profitable stuff. And one of two things happened. In 2009 or 10, he got mad and he sold it and he took the loss, or he held it. And today he's either thrilled to shit that he held it, or he looks at that Redfin number every couple of months and just hits himself in the head. If I could have just hung on, because time heals all deals. Properly
Jen,
run and operated.
do you ever, so you have your own investment properties too, you said, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But that came after property management. I didn't start there. Yeah.
Have you ever sold any of your properties? You have held on.
Excuse me, I'm 44 years old. How old do you think I am?
No,
Only old people sell properties.
No, sometimes people
Whoa,
1031.
hold on here.
Preaching, holding on to them, which I agree with. Have you ever sold? Have you ever advised a client to sell? Maybe they're 1031ing into something else. In what situations would you encourage somebody to sell or say, yep, this is the best scenario, either for the property or maybe for the individual, for their risk tolerance? When would you advise a client or yourself to sell or exchange?
Yeah. I think there's like two classic cases. One, I am financially unprepared to do what it takes to stabilize the property. Like I don't have the resources to do that, or I'm not emotionally capable of it. It's giving me an ulcer. I'm fighting with my spouse. Oh my God, get rid of it. Like, please, like, do not fight with your spouse about this. Do not have bleeding ulcers. There's other ways to make money. It has to fit your life. So those are the two things. If it's like bugging you from a stress standpoint or that, but then don't go think like, I'm going to sell this 4-unit and go get another 4-unit and it's going to be different. No. Like learn from that. Like if you're gonna, and that's normal. Young investors buy property that they often have to sell when they get serious. So they buy something with too much deferred maintenance that they're not prepared to, they think they can, but they really can't. By the way, that's where blight comes from. Just like inexperienced investor, one after the other buying these properties and just sucking a little worse and it just keeps degrading. That's where blight can come from. So I've done that. Yes, no, but personally, I am very dogmatic in I don't want to sell properties if at all possible.
Trisha does have a question, and hopefully she's recovering from her broken foot, I believe. But she's in South Carolina. She's asking, what do you think about self-managing landlords getting their PMIC license?
Is that for me?
Yeah. I believe-
Yeah. I guess I would ask Trisha, I mean, is she saying like as a way to be stronger in her personal business or to provide these services to others? And I guess I'll use the assumption she wants to provide the service to others. And in that case, I would say, yes. I mean, all states are different, whether they require a license or not. So some states, in Wyoming, I'm going to guess no property manager license.
You have to have a real estate license or
Okay.
be a family member or an attorney or a statutory employee.
Okay. So a lot like here in Pennsylvania, about the same thing. But like in Maryland, you can be a property manager with no license. You do need a license to buy and sell properties professionally, but not manage. I'm a big fan of this being a professional licensure issued by the state because this is about housing, which is critical infrastructure for the population. There is tremendous amounts of money in trust. We never talk about how much money is in trust with property managers and how easy and often it is taken or taken advantage of, either purposefully and maliciously or accidentally. And I've got stories to tell on this. And the agency relationship. What a lot of clients don't understand is like, let's say I'm Jeff's property manager and I made a decision on an application that was discriminatory in violation of the fair housing law. Who's getting sued? Me and Jeff. I did it as if I was Jeff's hand doing it. I walk into a unit and I say something, I do something. If it's wrong or there's consequences, they're not just hitting me, they're also hitting Jeff. And so I don't think investors understand. I don't think tenants understand. They don't. They think of the things that they can imagine and not everything else. So I'm a big fan of licensure, but beyond licensure, I want external triple tie out trust accounting done on these trust accounts. So I want my trust accounts, and I have two. I have one with owner's money where the rent comes and goes, and I got one with tenant's money with the security deposits. I have other accounts with my money and whatever. Those two are other people's money. First of all, they have to truly be trust accounts. Because if I do a big, bad, terrible thing and the government seizes my accounts, whose money is that? It would get released to you eventually, wouldn't it? But it would take some time. So you have to have true trust accounts and we have to have somebody, and the government is the one who protects the consumers like this. I need those reports going in saying, yes, One Focus has compliant trust accounts again in November 2025, December. And I'm fighting for that. Some states have that. Pennsylvania doesn't. And I think this is something that would come through education to the public about just the way this works, just the nature of the risk.
So just to follow up, I believe Trisha is saying keeping all options open. I would need one to manage my parents' rentals.
I would check on that because some states, and I don't know about your state, but if you're a family member, you can. So I would just double check on that.
Now in Pennsylvania, there is no exception for family members. You would have
Really?
to be a W-2
Okay.
employee of the owner. And then I'm even told that there's like a limit to like 5 that you could have, right? Because what you have is these big developers that have hundreds of employees and they don't have licensed staff in their leasing offices and things like that. And what I'm being told in Pennsylvania by our legal representation is no, that there is kind of a limit to that extension of power of doing licensed activities on behalf of the owner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Joe is a former police officer, and since I'm a firefighter, we have this back and forth. But Joe doesn't pay attention very well. So maybe Jen, you can say again what area you're in. You're in Pennsylvania, but you're not Pittsburgh, right? So he's asking if you're my PM, but maybe you can clarify where you're at.
No, I don't work for Mark. I'm in North Central PA. So between Philly and Pittsburgh, there's this juicy red center of this blue border state. And I'm right in the middle of that in Williamsport, about an hour or so south of the New York border. What we're known for right now, Little League World Series. And we in Williamsport are the headquarters of the fracking industry on the Marcellus Shale. So when they started fracking here, because New York banned it, really it should be up in like Binghamton. We got that business down here. And somebody was asking how I know Jeff. I know Jeff because I bounce around these meetups all over Pennsylvania. I did a speaking tour, and Jeff is dedicated to going out. And we got to know each other because he's a buy and hold guy, and he relates to this. Like, I appreciate when a guy who's done this since the 80s says, you're onto something. Because I've only been doing it 20 years. He's been doing it 20 more years than me. And so I respect
She
it.
just aged you, Jeff, by saying the 80s.
I did math.
Nah.
I didn't reveal it. I did math.
He also said that when he did his introduction. So she just
Okay. All right. Steve, the accidental landlord, is asking, any tips for tenant screening in Class C duplexes to reduce risk?
Is that for me again?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're the property manager here. So
I am. Yeah. I mean, well, anytime you're tenant screening, you develop the process and you follow it every single time. Investors, you guys are lazy. So you've had your fourth showing. They were clean. You kind of maybe had, they go to the same church as your mom, something. You go to the same barber shop. You find something to relate on and you convince yourself, I don't need to do it. They've got a nice car. They've got a nice job, whatever. And you shortcut your process. And I'm here to tell you, you never shortcut your process. I've got a client I can't sign on for 3 months because they can't come up with their operating agreement. They're a fire department with a property they need me to manage. I will not until I can validate their ownership. Now, of course, they own this property. I know they do. But I will not shortcut my process, whether that's checking IDs, credit scores, whatever. So I always tell people, listen, my process is public and on my website, onefocuspm.com. Go there. Look at my application instructions. It shows how I score things. So like, a credit score results in this many points and da-da-da-da-da. And if you get 6 or more points, you're approved and da-da-da-da-da. That's one way to do it that is really well adjusted to my market and my A and B product type. If you have a C product type, you're going to have a standard and you're going to stick to it. And that's the best advice I can give. You are validating everything. So we're doing credit checks. Credit score is the most indicative of tenant outcomes. And I was not raised that way in the industry. I had to do my own study like 3 years ago with Bucknell on my own data to realize. And so now I have a minimum credit score of 600. I don't take anything under 600. And guess what? My minimal bad debt shrunk. So I'm very happy with that. Landlord history, very important. Super hard to get accurate information. You can't go, well, the information's no good. You have to do it because there are landlords like us who will tell you the truth, even if we are evicting them, like even if it makes it harder for them to get out or whatever. We're verifying income. And that is probably the thing you're going to get the most fraudulent documents around, right? You're going to get fake pay stubs and things like that. Got to verify. So we've moved on to like a plaid verification where I'm like, Mark will say, I make $10,000 a month in my job. And I am going to do, plaid is that verification to bank stuff. So if you're doing anything with banking, they do something in the application that allows us to get the deposit information into their account to essentially validate, yep, the deposits match up and make sense with what Mark reported. He's not falsifying this. The bank is showing us. Now, is everybody banked? Nope. And in Class C, you're probably dealing with more unbanked people than not. So you're going to be calling employers. You're going to call the gas station and go, Joe does work there 40 hours a week, making $15 an hour. Great. He's not temporary or seasonal. Thank you. Right? Like, so now that pay stub makes sense. That pay stub, he didn't just get fired yesterday, something like that. And then criminal, which as we all know is not, it's more of a pass fail. You have to have a business case for declining based on criminal, for having a rule on that. But that's how I do it. But yeah, discipline and show. And I'd say probably the thing about any tenancy is showing them from the beginning what they're going to get. Right? Like if you want a lackadaisical landlord who just like makes stuff up as they go and whatnot, you're not going to be attracted to my company. You're not going to be attracted to my long page of instructions, to all the answers put in front of you, to the lease being given to you ahead of time. You're going to want that experience. But if you're a person who takes care of their housing and isn't afraid of like abiding by a lease, you're going to love One Focus because you want somebody to cheerfully answer the phone and go, "Oh my gosh, your shower was cold. Let me get Joe out there in an hour." Right? Like, because that's all we're doing all day. This is all we're doing is take care of you. Right? And I got to keep my Google rating up because I'm trying to find tenants for 600 apartments. I can't be a bad landlord. So I just love how much like my business reinforces the behavior. Like the incentives are aligned in my perspective.
So I did put, like I said, Emily is streaming, Jen is streaming, so their YouTube channels are in the chat. Also Jeff, so you can jump over there, go subscribe if you haven't followed them yet, and then make some comments on their algorithm to help out their channels right now. I believe Jen was at like 90 something on her YouTube side, so we can
Oh,
get
I
her to
know.
100 maybe.
I
But
had 1,300 on my One Focus page. I used to do everything on the One Focus page. In the beginning of this year, I moved it over. And I just make videos and I don't know how to post them. Like I don't know how to like put descriptions and stuff. So I'm going to hire an expert this year, I think, in 26 to help me grow this. You're doing great. I mean, you have all this
oh,
activity. But you're so regular. You're so committed to
well,
this. Yeah.
I'm happy that you folks come on. If not, it'd just be me sitting here. So I'm glad that you folks, and I'm glad Jeff wanted us to connect. But there was a question. Oh, this is from Flavio coming from Emily's page, I believe. Where did it go? So maybe Jeff or Emily could. What do you folks think about break-even properties?
Okay, I want the property manager to go first.
Oh,
and then
okay.
from there.
I will. I'll tell you. What do
Never.
I think? I think a lot of successful investments are break even if you're only looking at the cash flow return on a property. So, why is real estate so much more productive and holding it is the number one way to build generational wealth? Well, I call it the 5-way payday, right? So, buy and hold real estate pays us in 5 ways, and one of them is cash flow, right? So, I've got revenue minus expenses, and hopefully there's a little cheddar left over I put in my pocket. But often in the first years of an investment, you are even or negative because there's 4 other ways this property is paying you, right? Okay. So we've got appreciation, right? It gains in value on average, average market's 2.5%, at least here in my Nowheresville. Then you get leverage, right? I'm making money on the bank's money. So we can't forget our gain in principal that we're getting over there on the mortgage if we're properly leveraged. Then we're saving on our taxes. So if we're setting this up properly, the losses that, at least on paper, that we're taking on this property are counting against other income because we're depreciating and doing things like this. And the last way it pays us is there's nothing better at keeping up with inflation than buy and hold real estate. Not one thing. And us millennials act like this is the first time the economy has ever seen inflation. We literally forgot what high yield savings accounts were from the early 2000s. So we have to readjust our expectations and where money needs to be in an inflationary environment. And that is why I am like, I get really mad when people call me and go, "I don't know how you get the numbers to work on all this." And I'm like, yeah, because if you think it's going to send you a $500 check every month, you're nuts. And if that's what you're expecting, it's incredibly naive. These are complex, investments that yield beyond other opportunities on the whole and over time. But it's not immediate. And I find way too many people fixated on, well, right now, my AI boys. So if you're in software development, you're calling me, you're mid-career, you're literally my age, you're mid-40s going, I have $500,000 to $700,000 in my 401k. I'm going to have no job in 3 years. I need you to turn this into a job. And in theory, if I properly allocated that $500 or $500,000, 20% leverage across some income properties, with a yield of 20% cash on cash, I could replace their $100,000 a year income. That's the math they're seeing. They don't understand how foolish that is and how that is a long-term game. You make these purchases and in 10 to 20 years, you're living that life. You are not living that life in the first 10 years. So that is what I think about break-even properties. What do you non-property managers think about break-even properties?
Wait, Jeff, what is your job again?
He's an engineer.
So I'm not a fan of break-even properties. To be fair, when I'm doing a property analysis or deal analysis, I include, unlike some investors and especially new investors, include a management fee, even though we manage, and I include a vacancy fee, and I try and make sure that I get all of the different tenant expenses and property taxes and all the utilities, right? So if my property breaking even, it's not entirely breaking even because I get the management fee. So, but I really try and avoid them.
All right, Jeff, I believe your audio is coming in muffled. I'm not sure if you want to try maybe bounce off and come back in, but your audio is all muffled up. Emily, can you hear me? Or am
Yeah.
I coming in? Okay.
No,
Did you?
you're
I can hear you.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah, Jeff's is crackling.
Okay. Emily, did you have any thoughts on break-even properties?
So I feel like a lot of expectations are different from people that got into the real estate market before 2019, whether it's realtors, property managers, investors, and people that were in it before that. Because even in my brokerage, I'll have agents come to me and go, "What am I doing wrong? Why is this?" Well, you're spoiled because, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but because you started in 2019, 2020, 21, 2022, 2023, 2024. Everything sold easy, everything rented easy, everything was just easy. And so now we're seeing as things are harder, it's not like, to me, it's like, oh, this is normal. This is back to normal. We had a false, excitable, great period, and now it's back to real estate, whether it's sales, rentals, investing, whatever. And so if you were in it before that, we're all kind of like, oh, yeah, like, this is how it was. And people that weren't are like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And so I just think it created an unrealistic expectation. I guess I'm always very careful in how I advise people because people want to get into real estate. And I think there were all these people that had all this content about quitting their jobs and being able to make a living off of real estate in just a couple years. And that was possible during that period, or if you've had it longer than that. But so if don't buy your first property and then just break even because unless you have another job where you have a good income where you can save up that down payment for the next one, like you just have to be tactical. So I want to be really careful in how I'm advising people, but I have bought properties. I've said this in other streams we've done where I have broken even because I was familiar enough with the ebbs and flows of the market. And I was an expert in my market where I lived, where I knew that property was going to go up in value, but also the rents were going to go up too. So because I had another job and could even make that payment without that being rented, was comfortable with that decision. You just have to be educated. You have to have reserves because you can't break even if you don't have the money if that furnace goes out to replace the furnace or to replace the roof or whatever. So yeah, long-term buy and hold, you're going to be fine. Every market over 10 years, you're going to be okay. But if you can't afford, if anything comes up to fix it, you just have to be smart. Don't buy your first one with every dollar you have and put yourself in that position. But if you have a handful of properties and one is going to be no cash flow, look at your portfolio as a whole. Or like when we were buying, I never was like, I'm not going to have my normal job where I get paid every month. So if I can just park this money over here, because the thing that people forget is, like, I look at our rentals like retirement. And so if somebody if I have a rental that makes $1,500 a month, or if I have 6 rentals that make $1,500 a month, I can't afford to put 6 times 1,500 in a bank account or my retirement account every month. But my renter's paying that for me. And all I've paid is the 25% down plus the repairs as they come up. They're contributing an amount of money as your portfolio grows that you could never contribute by paying down your mortgage balance for you, even if it doesn't appreciate at all, and they just paid your house off for you over 20, 30 years. How huge of a contribution is that there's no way, unless you're like a surgeon or, whatever, that you would have been able to contribute. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. But you have to have reserves and be educated. Don't just fly by the seat of your pants.
You make so many good points, Emily. And you said, I don't want to be mean. And I do kind of want to be mean. I talk about how guys tell me, I just can't make the numbers work on anything with this interest rate. Like, this interest rate environment is not high. This is actually low normal. This is low normal. And if you can't make money on a property with a 7% loan, you're not good enough. You need to go home. I say my dog could make money on a 3% mortgage. You weren't clever. You weren't smart. You see what I mean when I say mean? I need people to hear that though. I need to wake them up because especially young people are really fixated with getting rich quick. And I'm out there selling the complete opposite. What Emily said, I am preparing for retirement. I am buying an asset today, expecting nothing of it today. In fact, I'm going to keep putting in. The last day Emily puts money into her property is not closing day. She will keep investing in this. This is an ongoing investment that will ongoing reward you. And it's like a flywheel. The first one does suck. It's hard and you don't know anything. You're inventing the solution every time. The second one, you have even less time. The third one, but when you get to Jeff's point, when you're at 25 doors and you've built processes and you've built equity, he and his wife have made a very conscious decision not to go to 100. It's very easy to get to 100 from 25 once you figured it out. Like they did not stop because they couldn't. They stopped because they created the life they want. I'm guessing, Jeff, I'm assuming based on what I know from you, you've created the life you want, marked it off. So yeah, 3% loans are not coming back. Frame all the ones you got in 2020 and 21 and tell your grandchildren, because they're going to be like, are you crazy, grandma? Yeah. I can't believe I didn't buy more.
Before we get into some more of the comments, Jen shared a link, and you have been showing these a lot. I've seen them on Facebook, a lot of your content. So what is this link actually going to take people to?
Oh my gosh, it takes you to my showcase, which is my investor gift guide. So I'm just making stuff for like the people, for the Jeffs out there. So nobody has made like a holiday shopping list for investors. And I just took all the things that I think are super cool that solve problems like stinking units, how to get a lockbox on a lever handle. I mean, just like really practical stuff. Books, education, my favorite stuff. It's all in there. So if you go to that link, you get hooked up with my podcast, which talks about it and like the downloadable version. So send it to your partners, to your kids, to your parents, and be like, this is the stuff I want. I want number 10 and number 12. That's what it is. It's a little fun holiday thing.
So Emily's cat's here, but I think the most recent one I saw, there was some item for pet smell or
yeah, Odor Ghost.
Yeah.
So Odor Ghost, yeah, okay. So you've smelled the unit, right? You've walked in and went, oh, this is like BO and pet urine and just like it's a funk. Odor Ghost is a solution made by Trax Corporation that you buy by the gallon. We say it takes about a quarter gallon per room, typically room, where you would apply it kind of like 2 to 3 feet up the baseboard, on the trim, and on the flooring, you know, where the pee goes. And you spray it around and it actually will remove it. It's an enzyme-based product. That's on the gift guide. Why you don't know about it? It's being distributed through flooring manufacturers. Like, so we get ours at toolsforflooring.com. They do not have it in Lowe's. This company is about to make a release of product actually this month called Smoke Ghost for your fires and your cigarette smoke. Maybe Mr. Firefighter would appreciate a little smoke ghost. You probably got a little smoke smell in some of your stuff. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to trying that because right now, like the Odor Ghost isn't great for the smoke stuff. We're doing best with cleaning, sealing, painting, and then ozone treatment. And the ozone machine's also on this list. Yeah.
All right. So there's the link in the comment section. So go check it out. And even on last week's stream, people were suggesting Emily come up with a video, or maybe you can do something like that for your tool bag, your DIY channel, right? Did you work on that yet?
I thought about it in my head, like my list of, okay, here's the things I have in my truck, like in my center console that I always have, like the couple tools that I can MacGyver most things with. And then here's my tool bag that I have in my backseat of my truck. And then here's like, you know, like the things if you were starting. So I haven't done it, but I have kind of like brainchilded it.
Hold on. I saw, so there was Ike put a comment about some big takeaway he said he got so far. Where did it go? It was about, shoot, let me find. Oh, here. Ike says, time heals all deals. Major key.
Yes, I buy properties like in my area. And when I go, okay, am I going to do this as a flip or is this an investment property? And people always go, what's the plan? And I go, well, it's a flip unless the market declines or I find something really expensive. And then it's a long-term rental property. So the plan, there's some I buy knowing there'll be rentals, but sometimes it's like, it's a flip unless it goes bad. And then we'll hold on to it as long as we need to recover or it stays in the portfolio.
Right.
Stan says buying 10 properties likely won't let you quit your job within a year and still maintain quality of life, but it's possible those same 10 properties might do that for you in 10 years.
Well,
That's right.
and one property, so I had a guy comment on my YouTube channel, my DIY one, when I started putting the investing stuff there. And he's more of a contractor type guy. And he said, he's like, I want to give a perspective here. He was in his 70s, and I think he had only bought one property, or maybe his property either had one other rental or a second rental or a second and third rental. And it was on his property. So he always could kind of really pick who he was renting to, and people didn't really trash it because he was on the property as well. And he was just talking about how what having one paid off good quality property does for him now in retirement. I mean, even if you just think of an area, and this is high, it depends on your market, where you had an extra $1,800 a month free and clear. That's a lot of money once you get to retirement. I know people that are in retirement that have very little disposable income. So even just if you're looking at this, I don't want to be some big investor. I don't want the stress of having a bunch of properties, but 1 to 4 paid off properties in retirement could substantially supplement your income. You don't have to have a bunch to really help you if you're just looking at it long term.
Yeah.
So is my audio better now, Mark?
Yes, much
Yeah.
better.
Awesome. So I wanted to, Jen, it's kind of with all of Apple.
You jinxed yourself, Jeff. Sorry, man.
Oh no.
No. All right, Jeff, I think we're gonna have to bounce you. Your coconut wireless isn't working too well today. So
It's that Lancaster County Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I'm from Lancaster, by the way. Like, that's something Jeff and I have in common, as I'm from Lancaster originally. And yeah, the Wi-Fi isn't strong. The Amish are using it all the bandwidth. They don't let any of the English on. You know
So-
what? That's funny though. I go to like Amish gatherings here. There's like Amish around. I have a lot of Amish clients, and my husband, who's a geologist, he's not in real estate, and he'll hear this. Oh, is that Jen? Oh, hi, Jen. Oh, Jen's here. Jen's here. And I go, you guys are watching me on the internet. I know you are. I know you are. I get around to some barn meetings, but not that many. He's like, you're famous among these people. And I'm like, I know. They got secret phones out in the shed.
So quickly, talking about famous or what, but
Yeah.
I saw you had your sister on, I believe, right? You were
Oh,
talking
yeah,
about the
Jessie.
business, and she's more kind of maybe the hands-on side, and she was calling you like the not showstopper type of thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
People-
Dinner and a show. She
Yes.
says, I'm the show, but you need to eat. And she's the dinner. I started this business 13 years ago, and I brought her in, like, I think 6 years ago as my BDM. She had a whole career in engineering and architecture and marketing for them. And then when I could afford it and whatnot, she moved here and I brought her in. But it turns out she's even a bigger bee than I am. So she's running the company. I am sales and business development. And I'm still here backing it up, and I make a lot of decisions. But between the two of us, we're both brokers for it. And yeah, we have a great time working together and doing this. God gave me my integrator. We're the yin and the yang. And so, but we're both wicked smart and have a lot of energy for this and share values that, like, we don't argue about what to do in like a situation with a client or something.
Well, she felt forced to be on that podcast with you, right? You were asking it, can she say
Yeah.
no to her boss?
Here's the truth. She's the only one who can say no to me. So she plays this like martyr role, but believe me, she don't do one thing she don't want to do. Like that, she is safe in her position because she is the only one who can give me a look, and I'll be like, all right, I'll shut up. Like, I know I'm taking
But
it too far.
you actually touched on that, right? You said someone has to say no to you so many times a year or something, right? So is that?
Yeah, that's the joke, is that she gets to say no 3 times a year, and she's used them all up that morning. That's something she says a lot. She's like, oh, I get to say no 3 times a year, and I actually used them all this morning. Yeah, because I am like, I'm a lot. I'm colorful with it. I'm trying to get people's attention around an unsexy thing, which is like work hard for a long time and enjoy rewards. That is not the message real estate is giving us. There was one comment in here I want to just address before we're ever done here. This person said, One way, this is Craig Lessler said, one way to make sure there is plenty of cash flow is to pay all cash for the property and buy it at an 8% cap rate in a good location. Yes, but if you do that, you are missing out on the biggest fucking opportunity in real estate, which is the leverage. You cannot go get a loan to go buy Berkshire Hathaway stock. You can go get a loan to buy a high performing asset in your community that is tax advantaged in America. So it's great. That's great. And listen, paying off the property and keeping it without a mortgage will hide a lot of inefficiency and loss. Having a high paying W-2 job along with real estate, can I tell you, your real estate's probably underperforming. If you're a doc who owns and manages properties and you are self-managing them, I will bet you $1,000 today that I could make 20% more on those properties if you let me manage them. Why? Because you could either go deal with that problem at that property, that non-compliant tenant, that deferred maintenance, whatever that is, the expense that you got to go shop insurance to get your stuff taken care of, or you can go make $7,500 on a shift tonight.
That's because you're a good property manager, though. Because here's the problem. Most
Okay.
property managers are not good. And I'm sure you know this by seeing all the other people that operate in your community. I have made the tactical decision that if I buy a bunch of stuff here and I leave or I want more freedom, I will hire a statutory employee to manage my portfolio because we have 2 property managers in my community. You don't have options. And so I think that's the hard thing is it's hard to find a good property manager. And you are the first time I have ever talked to somebody and went, oh, I would be comfortable having that person manage a property for me. And I've talked to a lot of people in real estate. So I think that yes, if they're doing it right, but most are not. So my question for you, for somebody that's in an area where there's actually competition and they can shop for a property manager, what should people be looking for? What questions should they be asking? What are red flags? I mean, if you could just say, hey, they're not in your market, they can't use you. What should they be looking for in a property manager?
Yeah. So generally speaking, there are 2 kinds of property managers for the investor like we're talking about. For you, Emily, for Jeff, for us. Okay. They are realtors who do this as a sideline. So they have a very active sales business. And in order to keep their clients happy, they provide some management services. Or they're a successful personal investor like Trisha, who, oh, I figured this out and other people want me to do this. And now I kind of go pro. And usually they have a pretty decent, like they've built 100+ stores. They've got handymen, a leasing agent, a bookkeeper. They start to go, oh, if I take on Emily's 30 doors, well, that pays for the bookkeeper. Shit, that's great. That is kind of how most property management companies are born. I come with a different flavor because I did multifamily. I did this for big business to a small town with my brand new MBA. I started giving this to small town people. That is the difference between me and the others. Okay. But if I'm shopping, if I'm in Williamsport and I'm going, hey, how do I find who I want to work with? I want to work with somebody like Jen, who's dedicated to property management. This isn't a sideline to them. She takes education. She has all the tools and resources. Well, you're going to go to our website and to our social media. So if you go to a property management website, it is pretty common if they are their own successful personal investor, they're highlighting the properties only. So often they'll have like the properties up, but you won't be able to learn a lot about them. If they're a realtor, you can't even tell they do property management. So go to their social media, go to their website. That'll tell you what they're into and doing. Maybe they're a serial entrepreneur and they're doing 4 other businesses. Okay. You guys can read a million books and articles about all the questions you can ask about fees and agency and all of that. Here's a couple of things I think you should ask that nobody's going to tell you to ask. Ask them where the broker is. So if you're in a state that requires licensure, there's a broker. So in my office, my sister and I are the brokers and the people under us are salespeople. The broker is the one the consumer truly is doing business with. Where are they? Are they in another state? Is this a white label broker? Are they running some other companies? Where's the oversight here, right? Because I'm trusting you a lot to go operate legally on my behalf on my properties. So where's the broker? How involved are they? Where is the money? Okay, I want to hire you, property manager. Where are you going to store the funds in trust? And now I want to hear where and what kind of accounts. And I want to ask even, are they FDIC insured? Why am I asking these kinds of questions? I care about the answers, but I care about how confident they are in answering them. Not one client's ever asked me, not one. And I said, God, I wish you would, because they are FDIC insured. We do have trust accounts. We do have all of this. We are triple tying and all of this stuff. but they don't even realize how much trust they're placing in me. They don't even realize. So I want to bring to your attention the trust. And then I want you to ask them very clearly how and what they're going to do in different situations. So if they're willing to sign your property without ever going to see it, without ever seeing the lease, making commitments to you about the outcomes they can produce for you without ever seeing the situation, that's naive. That is easy for you, the consumer, to sign up and get a solution really quick. It's a pain in the butt when I be like, oh, we have to go to the property and then I need a day or two to come up with a stabilization plan. Like, that's a pain. I know. For me, especially, it's the work for me, but it's what it takes to know that I've gotten you into a good relationship. And I see that all the time. I see business development managers for property management companies take a call from Jeff today and go, great. I think we can do great for you, Mr. Jeff. Contract's on its way. Just sign it and we'll get started. Like, and I don't, when they show up, they find like a burnout shell or they find something crazy. And that just speaks to naiveness, because if that property is fully nuts, the way I'm expected to be paid at, a percentage of the rents, if the property doesn't produce, I don't get paid. So I'm a bad property manager if I don't have a road to income on your property. And too often, I think it's these people just kind of money grab. They see reoccurring revenue, sign it up, do it. Don't worry about it. The expectation is low. I want to raise the expectation. I want to start exposing people to real property management, make property managers be better. Because when you have good property management in a community, tenants get better service, increased housing quality, affordability, reliability. Investors actually make a positive return, right? Can you imagine if you actually realize the return on the investment that you had? When tenants are getting treated better and investors are making a profit, investment happens in a community, bada bing, bada boom, economic development. Housing is infrastructure. This is why the government gives us tax breaks for operating housing. It's like bridges and tunnels. The country needs it. And we are 4.5 million units short in this country.
Stan is following up. He says, using leverage on a property and getting a 30-year mortgage allows you to pay year 0 principal and interest in year 30 while collecting year 30 rental rates.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't follow that.
I think he's basically saying by the time, if you pay it off, you start your rent now, right? So he's basically paying 0 interest at that point, right? So in the beginning, you can leverage it. And then towards the end, now you're taking advantage of acquiring that property.
That
right?
your costs are kind of marked to when you bought it. Right. Yeah. Well, if you can get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, sure.
And here, though, is so Craig was the one talking about paying cash earlier.
Yes.
So he says for cheaper properties, paying cash saves several $1,000s in lender fees, which can add 5% or more to the cost of the purchase.
Well, Craig, go buy a bunch of them cheap in cash and then go to your lender and blanket them and leverage them properly. Okay? Save your costs. Do it all at once on one portfolio.
Let's see. Anything else?
Or do a revolving line. Well, I guess not if you're buying and holding them. Never mind. Yeah, I think it just depends. I think people just miss, and this is where, I think Dave Ramsey is so good for people that have screwed themselves over. It's a good starting point, or it's good. He's great for most of America who needs basic financial information. But when he talks about that he has all his properties in cash, the amount of income that man earns is not normal for anybody to expect. And so if you're a normal earner, to think about the money I have made in real estate, and it's not even possible if I would have had to wait till I could buy my first property and finance the renovation. And I'm a general contractor, so that's just materials. That's not even labor. You are losing out and do what works for you. But you got to think about the time in the market you're losing and how slow you're acquiring properties if you're waiting till you can buy them in cash, and how your cash is losing value as you're saving it to try to wait to buy a full property. I have a client who has a bunch of investment property, and I was actually just talking to him. He's really smart. He has some businesses, so he's a high earner. He's a really hard worker, has a bunch of investment properties, and owes nothing on any of them. And because he owns his business and he renovates them, he has been able to acquire more than most people would be able to in that timeline. But also, most people are not going to work as hard as him and his wife are willing to work. And so I was just talking to him about, I went and talked to him yesterday, and he was talking about borrowing to, against them to buy other stuff in areas. And I told him about lines of credit and DSCR and all the stuff that I'm doing now against the equity in my properties to be able to buy more properties. if you waited, and I'm not leveraged high, like I have good debt to income ratios on my properties. I'm not pulling a lot out, but the amount that you can use to then buy and then use your property like a bank, like you're just missing out on so much opportunity if you're not using debt. And I'm not saying be irresponsible, but there's just you're shooting yourself in the foot. That you're slowing yourself down big time if you're not using leverage responsibly.
Yeah. Real estate debt is not bad debt. This is not the kind of debt we need to be getting to zero in our lives, particularly if we're making money. And just a real practical standpoint, everything you said, Emily, is absolutely right. But just as a practical, normal person, for me to put that much cash into one asset all at once. And I'm not a queen of like diversifying across asset classes. To be clear, I'm almost entirely in real estate and my business. Like I have a tiny little 401k thing and an IRA that I hope to put real estate in one day. But I don't put much in it because I'm buying real estate with the cash and I'm not doing all that. So like, I have to be diversified out. If I'm a normal guy who wants to build 25 doors like Jeff over the course of my life, I should be putting into various things. And that means putting all the cash into one property that, by the way, is like one building sitting in one town. You know, like I just like my money to be a little bit more spread out, even though I'm the queen of like buying all in one town, one asset type. But
or what if you bought one thing all in cash and that person, say you're in one of those states that is not landlord friendly, God forbid, and you bought a property and your tenant stays, they're not paying it. They've stopped paying utilities. So now you're not getting rent. You're paying the taxes. You're paying the utilities. You're waiting on the courts to let you evict them. You're in New York or California, so it's taking your years. Maybe you're doing cash for keys to get them to leave and paying them $20,000 to leave your property because that's happening in California during COVID. All your cash is in that property. It's making you no money. And it's now not cash flowing. So you can't take a line of credit off of it. Your bank's going, where's the money going? I mean, it's just so risky. I just don't like it.
yep.
Josh has a great question. So, you being a property manager, you're kind of in between, right? So you have to
We're middle
help your
managers,
client.
man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he says, I found if PMs have poor Yelp reviews from tenants, they are decent managers. They are holding tenants accountable and it leads to poor reviews. What's your thoughts on that?
I always tell people to, and luckily we're not in Yelp world. We're just in Google review world. Nobody here knows about Yelp yet in North Central PA. Okay. So if you look at my Google reviews, you will find they're interesting. And you will find some that call us criminals, snakes, all the things. And you'll see our responses. So the best advice I can give people is if you're trying to find out, is this property manager with negative reviews making responses that make sense? You go to One Focuses if you want to see what they look like. They say things like, you're right. This is what the lease said. We did our job. We held you accountable. By the way, when can we expect the $4,500 you owe the owner of the property? Right? Like, I'm a bitch. But that is what I do. And I hear constantly from owners of property, yes, I see what's going on here. I see that you're doing your job, because the job is to hold boundaries, hold standards, say no, say yes. Sometimes it's a victory lap when you get to call that tenant and go, great news, your application's beautiful. We can't wait to move you in and give you a delightful little gift bag with water and toilet paper. So that's great. That's a great day. And other times it's like, I'm sorry, your application didn't meet our standards and we're not able to proceed. What? Like, all the things. You have poor housekeeping in your house, and I come in and I send an inspector every 2 weeks until you get it better, or I evict you over it. Like, that is something you will make a complaint about. So I do think if you see all positive from tenants, it can be a sign that you've got a people-pleasing property manager. Here's another warning sign about realtor/property managers. Realtors never make an enemy. Everyone's going to buy or sell. Everyone's going to refer a buy or sale. And realtors are really popular people. They're friendly people. They keep it up. They are not good people at holding boundaries in your deals. They are not the chop wood, carry water people. They're not going to knock on the door and say the dog's crapping in the yard and you're not picking it up. The dog tie out is here again. This is the third time this month. Like, they will never engage in that kind of conflict. And that is why people respond to me and they love me as a property manager, because I do kind of live my life with that, like, boundaries are boundaries. And I try to put a little fun on it. I try to make it like witty at least. But at the end of the day, we're making money on rental property. We're landlords for hire. This is the job. So your your commenter there is very astute to realize that it is a mixed bag. And what property managers are doing, what we're talking about at our conferences, is how to be really ambitious about getting those 5 stars to weigh them out. So we're all instituting programs that ask everybody at the points of delight, when they just rented the property, when we fixed their problem in 3 hours, when they, got to use their free late fee waiver from their resident benefits program. Hey, what about a 5-star review, baby? So we're doing a lot of that and rewarding our team. And that's how I have 300 plus reviews and 4.5 stars or whatever, because you're right. My letterhead pisses a lot of people off. The messages on my letterhead sometimes are not welcome.
I think one thing, sorry.
No, go ahead.
That you mentioned that I think is really good is how your manager responds. Because when I start looking in other areas and thinking about a property manager, I again think they're going to be not great because tenants are going to leave reviews that got evicted, that didn't pay their rent and don't like to have a consequence. But to see how the manager responds, and this is any business. Has anybody ever gone on Google and seen somebody leave something and then the response is like some emotional raging tangent from the owner, and you're like, that was your public response to, like, even if they're wrong, like what you said was what happened, the accurate information, and a non-emotional business-minded response. That is what people are going to see that are prospective clients that are looking for a manager that are not idiots. So like you said, here's what happened, here's why you're not happy, but there's no emotion in it. So I think that's one thing that's really good. And then the other thing that I am really gathering from this conversation with you is I think we see all these things in business where people say, try to get stronger at your weak points. I think there's a time where we need to understand what our strong points are and what our weak points are. Like, I think different people have different personalities for different things. Like somebody said, you could have been a good cop. Like my husband used to be a state trooper and he has the personality to deal with difficult situations and stay calm. I love rental property for investing and I am a contractor. My least favorite part is dealing with people. That is not my strong point. I don't need to get stronger at it. I need to find somebody to put in place who is good at that. So sometimes the answer is not make yourself good at everything. It's finding the person who is really good at what they do and just putting them in place. And so like somebody like Jen, who is made to do something like this, if you're not, that's okay. And find your strong point and then hire somebody like her if you're lucky enough to have somebody like her in your area. Yes. Yep. Find the right
This
person.
is on my gift list, and I keep a stack of them here because people call me at different points in their investing journey. They're exploring property management. And so many people, sometimes it's getting from 2 to 4 doors. Sometimes it's the 20 to 30 doors. But generally speaking, most people tap out around 30 doing it themselves. Even if they're doing it full time, they start messing up. Those people need to find a who, which could be a property manager. It could be, Emily, your plan. You're going to hire an employee. Or it could be the how. And what people who've built things of scale have realized is that you go for the who and not the how. And the Hold It with PM Jen podcast. I do a 3-episode series started this week and it'll go for 2 more. It's all about adding global remote team members to your investing business. So Emily, you're a contractor. Do you have employees in the contracting business?
No, now I only renovate properties that I buy. I don't do anything for anybody else anymore. Mm-hmm.
So what I find, remote team members are fantastic for those of us in the trades and for investors because they're handling all the admin things, keeping that moving smoothly, keeping your documentation together and scheduling. And too many investors think, I need the runaround guy. I need the guy to run around and do signs and go to the store. No. You get in the streets. Let the computer work be done by somebody for $5 an hour across the world. And I live that truth. I talk a lot in the podcast, that 3-episode series about, I have 5 full-time Filipino people in my 15-person company. So 5 people here managing North Central PA rental properties, live and sleep and work in the Philippines in the middle of the night. Kind of like it looks like Jeff's in the middle of the night there in Lancaster. He's in a different time zone, Lancaster. It's still dark there.
Jeff, so how did you find Jen? I know you got a meetup, but how many property managers did you have to go through before Jen?
Oh, he doesn't hire me.
This is my basement office. Jen's not in my market.
No, I won't manage
Although
there.
she has a really good friend that is in my market and is a property manager that I meet with probably monthly, more frequently than I meet with Jen. And so the first time I met Jen at a Lancaster hack.
Yeah, real estate hackers.
Lancaster real estate hackers, the name they go by. and she just presentation before another developer that was there doing real estate stuff. And it's hilarious. And she's standing up in the front of the room and she's looking around and she's talking and she says, I know you. What's your name? And I don't remember the woman's name, but it turned out to be somebody
Rebecca.
that Jen went to high school with. And so it's just like hilarious.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. I was up there. They only gave me 10 minutes and I'm trying to do this speaking tour and I'm doing my whole like razzle dazzle. And I just keep seeing this woman's face. And down in Lancaster, like, I don't know if this is like you when you go to your hometown, it feels like you recognize a lot of people, like just like the shape of their face, their fashion. It's just all very familiar. And she just kept catching my eye and I'm really trying to stay focused. And in the middle of talking of like, I don't know, was there like 70 people there, Jeff? I'm like,
Yep.
I know you. What's your name? And she kind of looked at me like, you do know me. And she goes, my name's Rebecca. And then I said her maiden name. I said Warfel. And she's like, oh, well, it's actually Styles now. And anyway, and I'm in front of 70 people like, oh my God, so good to see you. No. So I did a speaking tour this year. Jeff met me because I have been trouncing around Pennsylvania. So I've been running a real estate investor meetup in my town. It grew at the end of last year. I needed a new venue. So I went and booked a fire hall. I mean, this is like true like real estate investor shit. This is like fire halls. Like I'm bringing in speakers, the whole thing. And my attendance plummeted in 25. I got 12 people at the first 3. And at the third one, it was like May or June. I was like a little bit like crying in my like Cheerios. I was a little bit like, oh, nobody wants to go to my meetup. And so I was like, I'm going to do a speaking tour. And I called it my town doesn't deserve me. So I'm coming to your speaking tour because I'm holding resentment against these people for not coming out. And I just literally used video emails. So guys, hot tip for investors. I use BombBomb so I can send a video email. And it's me going, hi, I'm Jen and I do this. And I'd love to come to your meetup. I love it. And like, by the way, I'm not charging anything. So book me. And I booked myself out at like 8 different meetups across Pennsylvania. My dad drove me to all of them this summer. He was my driver, roadie. And I've done about like 15 podcasts plus like 2.5 seasons of my own. So this year I've just put out a lot of content. Next year, I want to speak on stages at real estate investor conferences. So if you love me on the live feed, you should try to fly me somewhere. I'm a hoot. And yeah, I'm nice and I buy drinks and I'm a hoot and a half. And so I want to be on stages like Bigger Pockets, again, talking about the hold period. I really am so uninterested about how you bought it or found it. There's so many people out there talking about that, giving great advice, but nobody's telling you what to do with it once you have it.
You know, Pittsburgh's in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah. Do you know how big Pennsylvania is?
Yeah.
Island boy.
But we had, there was an in-person meetup in September. When some of our people that are in that actual boots on the grounds there put together an in-person.
Is it called Dig?
I have no idea. What do you mean? The place?
No,
Or-
the group. The
No,
group.
no. It was just
Oh.
kind of from the One Rental at a Time community, Michael Zuber's community, and just
I
there's
don't
going to be an
recognize
event
that.
in Vegas in February that Emily and I are attending, and we're trying to
Pitch
convince
me,
Jeff to be there.
baby. Pitch. I have a whole list of places in 26 that I'm pitching myself to go. I'm already booked. I'm doing a keynote in Nashville in January. I'll be in Vegas in October, but otherwise the year's wide open. I am well known on property manager stages. I want to be in front of investors. I want to be talking to them, educating them. And like the big goal, guys, I want to be the Susie Orman of real estate, of rental real estate. What Susie did for personal finance education, particularly for women, I would like to be that face on a national platform, raising the industry, talking about these issues and how they can really work. So that's the big goal. I don't think CNBC is bringing on mouthy broads from central Pennsylvania. So I'm going to do something on YouTube like this. I'd love to see a reality show about my industry, really showing people like, what does it take to make $1,500 a month on a property? Like, it's not just sitting there and cashing the check and calling the plumber once every couple of months. Like, it's properly done. It's so much more. And it's so freaking important. Sorry.
All right. Was that your alarm? Do you have to run?
I do have to run, but
Okay.
why don't we just do this last one here about documents from prospective tenants? I am okay with copies because I'm not like working in 1990 where we have to get originals. So we want IDs. We want to check IDs that they're valid, that they actually look like the person. And we often are doing things remote now with people. We're doing self-showing. So I might not ever have laid eyes on Jeff. We'll have to figure out a way to lay eyes on Jeff, right? So if Jeff has self-shown that property and he applies and he sends me a license with that face and his name and his address and his date of birth on it, I have to unfortunately get you on a FaceTime or a Zoom and look at your freaking face. Sorry. Oh, New Orleans. That's fun. I'm supposed to go down there in April. Maybe I'll go do that. Anyway, so we're going to check IDs. We're also going to remember what is not in the credit check system. So you can run a credit check through Zillow or TransUnion SmartMove or one of those. Two things are not going to be on that credit report. One, public judgments. So we are not going to see public judgments on there, meaning if another landlord has a case against them, as of July 2017, those are no longer showing up. So you have to go check the state. So if I'm looking at somebody with an address history, according to the credit report, all in Pennsylvania, I check the Pennsylvania portal. But if Jeff, my applicant, has lived in Louisiana and California and Pennsylvania, I'm checking all those states' portals. A little bit laborious, but we're doing that. What else? Oh, address history is on the credit report. So I'm picking on Jeff. He's my applicant. He gives me his address history for the last 10 months or 10 years. And I look at his credit report and I see other addresses, maybe indicating things he's not sharing with me, right? I build the timeline and he has to explain to me what was 101 Woodland Court. What was that, right? And you suss it out. You suss it out. I feel bad for you guys only doing like one app a year. It is really hard to build an instinct and a process around something you do so infrequently. Yeah, maybe I'll work a little bit. Maybe I'll do a how-to series on how to vet and underwrite a tenant's application and the options available. I have to get familiar again with what's available to the self-managing landlord because we're dealing in like big tech tools here. Like our app fees are $65, guys, and I am not proud of that. But that doesn't even cover the cost of me processing this application. I know in Little Nowheresville, $65. Guys, thank you for subscribing to Hold It with PM Jen. This is such a fun group. I didn't know what to expect with a live stream. And I mean, of course I know Jeff, but I've just gotten introduced to you, Mark, and I've never met you, Emily. Emily, we have something in common. I own a construction company here too with the PM thing. And I'm telling you, ever since I put women in control of it, every job comes in on time and on budget. And it is not because we're out there swinging hammers. You know why it is? Because we are not afraid of making a call. This is what I say. We don't go like, oh, Joe didn't go there. He was supposed to be there 2 days ago. No, if Joe's going to be there at 8, I'm watching at 8:05. And if Joe's not there, I'm like, hey, Joe, is everything okay? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, it's 8:05 and you said you're going to be there at 8. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, nag a hag. I am naggy. But that's what it takes. Jeff, if you're my client and you want that porch redone at that price and in that, don't you need me? You don't want me calling you and going, I don't know. He's such a pain in the ass. I just had it on my personal property. I'm converting from oil to gas. I'm getting 2 new central air furnaces put in. I've used that plumber for 13 years. Something happened. He's not doing the job. He's had my $9,000 for 3 months and I just have holes in the ceiling. Guess what? He's going to be arrested on Monday afternoon if I don't have a cashier's check in the morning because I already have a detective on it. And yeah, I have a very good record of always getting my money, my client's money. We will go to the Public Utility Commission. We will go to the Attorney General. I've got great. Let's do a storytelling live sometime about all the times.
Yes.
All right. I got to run to go get, guys, this is so terrible, Botox. Look how wrinkly I am.
Enjoy your half a day off.
Yeah. Well, quickly,
I'm gonna
where
go
can
do
they find you? Where can they find you?
Hold It with PM Jen is my handle on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and YouTube. And you'll also see me on LinkedIn under my God-given name, Jennifer Rulens, Ruelens. But on LinkedIn, I'm trying to shame the real estate professionals more than the investors. I'm really more talking to you guys on other platforms. But sign up for the newsletter. It's pretty entertaining. And there will be more things coming from me in the future. I'm trying to run this company here and, have time to fart around. I'm not like that crazy of a hard worker where I work all night and weekend.
Hey, Mike,
right.
Mark, you need to introduce Jen to Mike Zuber.
Me?
Well, he's out in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
I'd
you.
love to know somebody in my town.
All
Well,
right.
you
Well,
got
your town.
Jeff, thanks for connecting us. And Jen, thanks for doing it. We'll get you back on some more live stream. Like you said, maybe some storytelling and whatnot. But you have, like Emily said, have a great rest of the half day.
See you guys later. Bye.
Thanks, Jen. Bye.
See y'all. Have a great day, Jen. Thanks.
All right. That was fun. I got a few more minutes. I got to get my son up. But you guys want to say any final words before we wrap things up? I mean, Jeff?
Isn't she just a storm?
Oh, yeah. She's great. Great information. I think a lot of people loved having her on. So hopefully we'll get her back on. But Jeff, like I said, Emily will be in Vegas. She bought her tickets, her and her husband. What about you, Jeff? I'm gonna throw you out there on live. Will you be in Vegas?
I don't know yet. I'm starting myself around the family week.
Well, hopefully we'll see you there. I think it'll be a fun time. Emily has officially said her and the husband bought their tickets. I don't know if they bought or where they're staying and stuff, but they will be there. But what are you hoping to get from it, Emily? Then what is your expectations of the event?
I think just communication with people in real estate. I think that everything that you want to learn, you can find online. And kind of what we've talked about is just how hard it is to build that community if you don't have people in your area that have the same passions as you. So just excited to be around people that care about the same stuff I care about.
And I'll put, before we wrap things up, go check out Emily's channels. What was your most recent channel videos on both channels so far? Yeah, your DIY one and your real estate one.
My most recent DIY one, I posted one last night, but I can't remember. Oh, I did this accent wall. So I just did
That's right, yeah.
like a slat accent wall with an angled ceiling, because I think sometimes people struggle when they don't have a flat ceiling and finding the angle. And I don't know what my most recent real estate one was. I'll have to do another one this week, but I can't remember what I posted last.
All right, and then there's Jeff's YouTube channel. He's trying to grow his subscriber count. Is that going to be something you're going to try and grow, Jeff? All right. All right, everyone.
I'm going to throw out just recently on channel a community discussion about checklists, and I published the checklist that I use when I have new tenants moving in, and it's been received pretty well by people that have seen it. So I hope you all jump out and check it, and also share your most popular checklist, the community and me. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, so everyone in the chat, if you are in the school community, Emily and Jeff are there. So go follow them, reach out to them if you haven't connected with them yet. But everyone, hopefully you have a half day. Hopefully you have a half day like Jen was saying. But if not, have a great rest of the weekend. I'll be back tomorrow. Nick is back from his trip, so we'll be discussing Bitcoin. So we're going to do a weekly Bitcoin wrap up. So